having to keep increasing the amount of pesticides. We've been listening about the super weeds that they were not there before, but because nature is very smart and adapts, we have these weeds that all of a sudden they say have to fight, and they're becoming stronger and stronger. And then we have Roundup that is not able to handle them anymore. And all of a sudden we have to go back to the 2,4-D, which is where we were trying to put away. And so it seems that the public perception is at the times what you're trying to accomplish ain't happening. And this goes with the question of, are we playing with nature maybe too much? So my question is, what's your answer that precisely pesticides keep growing? And seems that we are not producing more and better with less pesticides, but that seems we have to ever be increasing. I have a second question. I'll make them quick.
Let me do that one first. So, appreciate the question. It's one of the things that comes up quite a bit because everybody has different ways of looking at it. If you actually look at the data on pesticide use, particularly insecticide use, it's dramatically reduced. The biotech crops have dramatically reduced insecticide use. In the case of herbicides, it's what we've seen, particularly with the Roundup Ready crops, is the use of glyphosate has increased. But glyphosate has replaced a lot of other products, and the net to the farmer has been positive. You mentioned how effective glyphosate is, and it's been a great product. And so maybe the best source to answer that, because everybody, as you know, has their own database and pulls their own data however they want to do it. But I would say probably the most comprehensive study that's ever been done was actually published just last fall by 2 German economists. And they did a meta-analysis of every publication and every review of the GMO crops. And this was 2 German economists funded by the German government, which has never been a real friend of GMOs in the first place. And what they concluded from all this research is that on average, if you compare GMO agriculture to non-GMO conventional agriculture, that basically GMO crops use about 30% less pesticides because they're replacing some of the insecticides and herbicides. They have about a 10 to 15% higher yield. And importantly, because they get higher yield and use less input, they have about a 50% increase in profitability to the farmer. And that's frankly why today, GMO crops are grown by 20 million farmers around the world, frankly, because they work. And so, that's the best study. It's independent, and it's the most comprehensive review that's ever been generated. So, I know there's a lot of things that you can see on the internet and a lot of different opinions, but I just do the simple logic test. I grew up on a farm. I can remember, and this experience. Farmers are really shrewd business people, and they wouldn't buy anything, and they certainly wouldn't buy anything for 2 years in a row if the technology just didn't fundamentally work and provide benefit. The adoption of GMO technology across 30 countries by 20 million farmers on 25% of the world's farmland is the fastest adopted technology in the history of agriculture. And the reason it's been adopted is because it helps them improve their yields and reduce their inputs. So that would be, it's a different view than the question that you posed, but that's really why farmers are using these tools.
And second question, this has to do with lobby. And every big company has a lobby. A small company should have a lobby too. But one of the criticisms we hear about Monsanto, that in part I will support, is that if we see who is USDA, FDA, more often than not, we see people that we read their curriculum, they've been high executive of Monsanto. It's something right now happening, as you know, the dark act that we know Monsanto is fighting, which is trying to make sure that the states will not have the power to begin labeling food that will say GMO. I can understand the side of why a company like you, which control obviously the big percentage of GMO in the world, will not like to be. But my question to you is, and precisely because you want to have this kind of public relations, trying to bring people into believing that you are part of the solution, we need you to be, we're going to keep feeding. Wouldn't be smarter, use for you, let that labeling and have the little thing on every package that will say GMO. So if I want to feed my children, I will be the one deciding with my vote, with my money, if I believe in you, if I believe in the little farmer 1 mile away from my home. And at the same time, you will keep doing your efforts like anybody does. Yeah. My farmer tells me, buy my food because my food is good. Your farmers and your company will say, buy my food because we are fighting hunger, we are producing more, better, cheaper, efficient, and it gets you closer to the people putting the message out there. So my comment to you is, why to fight? Why not be part of this being more open? Because food needs to be open. The seeds, the world, the goodness of the earth belongs, and you will agree, you come from a farm, to Mother Earth, to every single human being. It's okay to be able to do a business and have a patent. But then, if you're trying to be open, why we don't start allowing labeling that you will have used in the same way kosher? I buy my hot dog, and if I'm Jewish, I'm not, but I buy them because I know they're going to be good, and I know, oh, they're kosher, so this is a good product, I'm buying it. Why we don't just let the little labeling that people that really care will do that? And then you keep selling who you are, and the little farmers keep selling who they are, and we let the people keep doing. I know it's a hard answer.
Thank you for asking that question. And I think it's a really important question, and one that unfortunately probably doesn't have a 30-second answer. Let's start with a couple of pieces here. So first of all, every seed that we sell that's a GMO is labeled as a GMO seed, whether it's a corn seed or a cotton seed or a soybean seed. So we proudly label every product we produce as being a GMO or not, and that's true all around the world. The question you raised is food labeling, not seed labeling. And so that's an important difference, because food labeling around the world is usually controlled by the agencies like the FDA or the Food and Health and administrations of different countries. And our role is, we need to comply with what the laws of the land are. And so officially, the FDA, who has oversight, does not have a labeling policy for GMOs, because their science has concluded that GMOs are effectively no different than any other food, so there's no reason to label it. You guys may not remember this, but 20 years ago in a grocery store, everything that was on the grocery store shelf would say doesn't contain cholesterol. And that would include bananas and things like that that never
actually don't have cholesterol.
That don't have cholesterol. So it got crazy. So the FDA came in and got very science-based in its food labeling. That's the law of the land. Now let's talk about food labeling practically and what we believe and what we would like to see happen. So first thing I will shock you with is, and I've written about this and you can look at it on my thumb drives, is first of all, as a company, we support the voluntary labeling of GMOs. And so what do I mean by voluntary labeling? There are now, with GM Watch and other organizations, there's probably 15,000 foods that are labeled in the grocery store as GMO-free. As you know, and I talked about it earlier, anything that is labeled as organic by definition is non-GMO. So there's lots of consumer choice, if a consumer prefers it. I celebrate the voluntary labeling approach. If a company wants to source a non-GMO product, create it, put it in the marketplace, see a marketing advantage, fill a consumer need with that product, whether it's a GMO-free Cheerios or whether it's a Chipotle saying they're going to change their product line and not use GMOs, that's the way the system should work. That's a voluntary labeling. And just literally within the last 2 weeks, the the Secretary of Agriculture, Vilsack, has said that the USDA will create actually a certification system for GMO-free foods. I think that's great, and we support it. That's the way the system, frankly, should work. And as you know, just to put it in scale, just so we understand what we're dealing with, if you look at the 500 million acres of crops that are grown in the United States, about 5% are organic and about 95% are conventional or GMO. So it puts it in perspective. So then you get down to what happened with Prop 37 and why did Monsanto and other food companies, go against the Proposition 37? Proposition 37 was not voluntary labeling. It was mandatory, compulsory labeling. And if you really looked at the rules, they excluded alcohols made from GMO products. They had different rules for meat for animals versus human consumption. It was it looked to me like it would have been designed by someone looking to make a living out of lawsuits for the rest of their career. It would have created a mandatory labeling. It would have created confusion. It would have separated California from everybody else. And the idea that we end up in a place where every city has their own labeling laws or every state is different doesn't seem to me like a winning hand. And so what we would support and what we have supported is if we're going to do labeling, let's do it at the national level so that all states are the same, and we would absolutely support that. So we would support the FDA, clarifying, a GMO label, a GMO-free label, a natural label, an organic label. Once again, because there's a huge amount of confusion over, labeling food in this country.
There's a lack of clarity in the bill that created not support.
I'd say it's two things. It's the lack of clarity, and then when you go back to the 95.5, you've got a small percentage of foods causing a change in sourcing, labeling, and UC Davis did the study that said that the cost of labeling to the average family in California was going to be somewhere around $600 to $800 for something that added no value.
It's not.
So we opposed it, and
my friend, it's 75% of us.
And the other thing, just before, I know you want to say this, but here's the other thing. When that information was presented to consumers in California, consumers in Colorado, consumers in Oregon, the public voted it down. So it's not just that we didn't think it was a good idea, it's your citizens also did not think it was a good idea, that it didn't add enough value. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
There's enough chatter out there. It's nice to shut up those that are over chatter on the other side. The question isn't the 5% of us that are organic farming. It's the 25% of you as consumers, and the growing 25 to 30 to 35 to 40 that are looking for some more information. So that will grow. And you guys are right. Yep. Federal bill. It's really clean about what the labeling is that you guys can support, that everybody else can vote in. Because everybody's happy, right? And in the meantime, it looks to the naysayers that the cost of relabeling everything is so prohibitive, and the reduction of sales, because you will get 25, 15, 20, 20% less revenue. But the companies that would have to relabel won't take the lack of revenue and the extra expense on the other side. Then it looks like it's a bit of a barn dance. So if it is what you say, then we could all support that.
Yeah. So the bill has been advanced, and it's being building support from both Republicans and Democrats, because I think politically they see the catastrophe of 50 different states with different food labeling laws and what that would do for production, for how it would hurt farmers. And the massive amount of litigation would create. So I think the solution, if we're going to do this, is do it at a national level, do it across the board, and do it in a fair and transparent way for everybody.
Before they get your microphone, Chiarello, I want to see if you can join me to get for everybody on the other side. We think it's deeply important, my wife and I, and her coming to Barn Raising, to have a relationship with your food, and to support all of those relationships and be involved, engaged community. So we are giving to anybody who will drop a business card in this corner over here, $10,000 or $50 a person to go pick a project on Barn Raiser and watch and spend my money to have a chance to have a relationship with food. I'm hoping maybe Monsanto will join us and matching us on the other
side. I thought you were going to ask me to put my business card in.
$10,000 in the pile.
I'll tell you what, I'll match that one.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.